You're listening to Market the Brew, a leading resource for promoting and marketing craft beer. Join in as we share with you, straight from the source, tools and strategies craft brewers from around the country are using right now to achieve significant success. We've all become familiar with the beer passports that many states and regions now have. The process is a lot like this. Stop at a brewery, order a beer, get your book stamped, and then head off to the next location. It's a great way to see your state, visit some breweries you might not have visited without the passport, have some fun, and meet some interesting people. But what happens when the passport is much more than a tool to get people to stop in for a drink and to get their stamp? What if people got much more information about craft beer, your location, your history, and access to an app that supports the passport? And on top of this, it never expires. Now, tie the passport, the app, and social media together, and you begin to develop a digital community that meets at your brewery. The passport is only $25, but it's the best $25 you'll spend to explore Wisconsin's craft beer, distillery, and food destinations. Pop for the extra $30 and begin to explore the Minnesota craft beverage community as well. Listen in as Danielle and Travis talk to the founder and curator of the Craft Drinks Passport from Craft Notes. Find out why the craft drink passports are the easiest way to explore and support local craft. Uniquely curated, fun, and full of great stories, art, and complimentary drinks. Passports invite you to join friends, support the best local businesses, drink some drinks, try something new, and meet new people. So what's not to love? But before we start the podcast, just a quick reminder that the Market the Brew podcast is available at marketthebrew.com, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio podcasts, and other popular podcast sites. The video of these episodes will be available on the Promote the Brew YouTube channel, free to watch or listen in. We hope that you'll join us and share these episodes with your family, friends, and on social media. Now, find a comfortable place to sit, grab a glass of your favorite beer, kick back and relax, and listen in as Danielle and Travis talk with Matt Dowgwillo, founder and curator of the Craft Drinks Passport by Craft Notes. Cheers.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Matt.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to obviously talk about your business, Craft Notes. So can you just tell us how you came up with the idea and like what it is?
Yeah, honestly, like I kind of came up with it a long time ago. I used to work for this other company called Thrifty Hipster, and we did advertising for bars and restaurants. Like, I mean, this is even like before this is when we were competitive with like the free weeklies, Like here, I know
Okay.
we'd have like On Milwaukee would be a comparable. In
Okay.
Minnesota, we were against City Pages. But like one thing that we'd always see is, so our big thing was selling ads, and we would always try to work with, restaurants and breweries, I guess. I actually kind of got tied into breweries. One of my friends from college was actually one of the original founders of Northern Brewer.
Oh, nice.
And so we kind of did some projects together, and then I kind of got tied in there. Like, this is back when Summit, and there were a lot of breweries that, obviously just didn't exist. It was pretty much Summit and Shells were some of the big ones, and that was about all. But yeah, so I've been working with craft beer since like 2005 when there was nobody. We actually did like a really fun event for Summit I think we shut it down on our 11th year just because like we were like, oh, we're getting too old for this thing. But it was always a really good time, and it was it was kind of like this too, like very trio based or whatever. But one of the big things that we saw, and this was probably a mistake or naivety when I was younger, but like when we started Thrifty Hipster, we saw that like there was a lot of money like in advertising for these kind of places.
Yeah.
And then we obviously realized that wasn't the case. And so as we as we were kind of like, as new tools and things kind of came about, like I remember Open Table when they first came out, it was kind of like a lot of restaurant partners that we had at the time that were advertisers, were doing that. And I'm like, well, why would you pay all this extra money to be with them when you could pay less to be with us? And I always kind of joke that I saw like niche advertising before, because like when we first started, we were selling impressions that was, kind of comparable to like, I mean, like just the your normal online ad impressions, right? Like $10 CPM kind of things. And like for us though, like we had tried to build this service that was like super specific and super specialized. And so like I always kind of joke that I saw that as a core product before anyone, like in 2005, as like being able to take a niche. But we were forced to pivot and take a like broader approach, because then it became selling like pure numbers, because we would always have to say like, well, our traffic is so much more targeted because the only content we serve is bars and happy hours, blah blah blah, right? And then obviously things like Open Table got even more specific. And the thing that I really liked about them, and I remember one time like we had a client, and he wanted to do a deal on our site, and it was print this off and you get a $2.50 Guinness, right? And he called me like at the end, and this is like, you have to print this stuff out, right? and I'm like, all right, like whatever. I mean, we have the capability. We're cool. We'll put it in there. Like I figured out how to do it, just in HTML into the data and whatever. And so at the end of the month, he like called me up. He's like, yeah, I don't think I want to advertise. I'm like, well, did nobody use it? And I'm like, he's like, we only had like 13 people. I'm like, you had 13 people print this out for
Right.
That's awesome, dude. Like I like, and so like it was just like this like completely like different understanding of like what expectations were. And so like I always saw like with Open Table, like the one thing I really like to me is not, and this is kind of like my pitch on Craft Notes as well, is that like I really see it as like, what is a customer worth? And if we can like reach like a good customer and like infuse knowledge and get them excited about thinking something, it should be worth even more, and so to me, like Open Table has already kind of proven that model. And so for me, like it was always like, with Thrifty Hipster, it was like, how do you get somebody to actually like know that it's working, right? Like if you're a partner who's paying to be on that site for advertising, like how do you know it's actually working? And like we always kind of knew our numbers, and we were just like blown away with how successful, like from a consumer standpoint it was, and from a like driving actual sales dollars was, like to those types of businesses. But then like it never like materialized in ad revenue. And so we ended up building the SaaS product that we sold. It was really just kind of like all of the things we learned from working with those clients, but like we ended up remarketing it as a SaaS product that we sold to a bunch of distributors out in California to get around some legal loopholes. And then yeah, and it worked great for them, but like they, again, like it was like, we were too far ahead of the game, I think, because even I would say like a couple years, so that was 2014, 2015. And after that, like a few, basically some other tools started coming to market that were like just single snapshots of those services. And they're all better than what our service provided, but we provided them all together in one. And, obviously we didn't have 30 guys working on that one piece, or on each one piece, so we had like 5 guys working on like, 12 pieces. But yeah, so anyway, we sold that. And then I don't know, like, I guess I just knew all the breweries, and a lot of the older guys were kind of old friends of mine from just being in craft beer forever. And so I guess, we kind of had this idea, and now apparently we have a lot of competitors, and,
Right.
but I think like the big difference between us and them, I mean, we obviously do it a little bit differently. Like we try to focus on art and story and quality customers. I think that, the competitors have been a little bit of frustration, because like, to me, they're trying to do something completely different. And I think just inherently, like, again, we're forced to pivot in a direction that we don't want to. Just like we were back in the day when we were specific and had to pivot to be more general,
And
So-
we've seen like your Craft Notes passports, there's a large variety. So you have a lot of different passports. What are the passports that you currently have, and for what states?
Oh yeah. So well, right now we're only in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Minnesota we launched in 2015, and we've got a bunch of different versions. So I think we just did our eighth one, was the one that I was telling you about before we started with Trivia Mafia. So that's like the eighth version. But we also did a partnership with the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild and the Minnesota Ciders Guild, the Minnesota Historical Society. So we're trying to like work a little bit more highbrow and like talk about a story, rather than just like an offer. So theoretically, I mean, this isn't 100% true, but you could technically own all eight of, almost true to say you could own all of our books and not have you to do like a
Okay.
different
That's
story.
awesome.
And then we really try to like curate, we really try to find the venues that fit that story.
Yeah.
So like our approach is more like a theme and story, and then we go out and like, fill that with places to tell that story, you know.
And it's really cool that you have different passports for the different people in the community. It's like it's not just beer focused. Some of it's distillery cocktails, some of it's ciders. There was, what was the theme? Like women.
Well, as I said, women-owned
Yeah,
businesses.
Yeah.
you
women
have.
women owned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we started as women owned, but then we had to broaden it to like women owned and off the beaten path, because we realized, there just wasn't enough women owned businesses in the industry to cover it,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, and so that's like kind of the idea is, to us, it's we're not really like, I think like a lot of the places, and I think a lot of places imitated us in that way, where it's like they saw craft beer and it's like, oh, I get it, like it's this passport, and you go like, and it makes sense. But like from our perspective, it was more about like trying to build a community of local craft lovers and really try to focus on businesses that are really, really important aspects of, cementing local culture and creating
Mhm.
local culture. And so that's why for us, it's not just beer, it's not just restaurants, it's not just bars, it's kind of like, or just coffee. It's kind of like everybody that is, a notable player in making something unique and really like showcases, local culture.
Yeah.
So we have the Craft Notes passport ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And it's amazing because at least for the Wisconsin one, there are distilleries in here, there are breweries, and it's kind of nice because depending on the date night we have set or the vibe that we're feeling, like if it's a Friday night, we might go for a cocktail, and there's some breweries in here too, so you can kind of mix it up and have different date nights, or if you want to go out with the friends, there's just something for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. And that one we tried whenever we do first, kind of the idea when we do our first market or first one in the market is we want to kind of focus on the originals. So
Mhm.
we really try to pick like, we try to split the difference between Madison and Milwaukee and just come up with one, but then really try to go with original kind of places. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool too, like if you go through, like for example, the Hacienda one here, it's really nice because you tell us a little bit about the place that is being featured. You give us recommendations on what to try. Like we were sitting down ordering beers, I think at Lakefront, and just reading about their history in this book.
Yeah.
So it's really cool because how else would we find that out?
Right. Right. Well, and that's what we try to do. So we work with, and the recommendations even come directly from either the founders or the head brewers, head distillers,
Mhm.
because we want it to be representative of like the best thing they do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, think about it like when your friend comes to town and you're like, you got to get the whatever at this place, and it's just like,
Yes.
that's like if you guys are going to Minnesota, like I'm actually right now I'm drinking my one of my favorite breweries. It's called Uda Pills. And if you guys came to Minnesota, be like, you got to go to Uda Pills, and try their Ewald the Golden, because it's a phenomenal brew.
Now,
So, like,
are there any areas that you're looking to grow into? I mean, dream wise, if you could have it your way, is there anywhere that you would kind of want to go to?
yeah, I mean, next year we'd like to be in 4 markets for the holidays, but it's really dependent. I mean, we're kind of self-funded right now, and obviously the last 2 years have been a bit of a struggle, especially with our home base really being Minnesota. They really took the lockdowns and everything seriously, and as well they should. In fact, the version that we did with the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild, we actually let them pick the partners, and the whole theme was essentially tied to places that were really focused on health and safety. So the ones that were really going the next level, trying to ensure that both their staff and their customers were safe during that time. And then yeah, so it's been a rough 2 years, but like we really used the time to focus more on our mobile app, and we've kind of got the groundwork laid for some programs that we're hoping to really push forward with in 2023. And then if everything goes well, we'll be in 4 markets. We're actually kind of open to like wherever. One of our partners is the founder, Bittercube, and they just opened a new place up in Minnesota called Earl Giles Distillery. But he's got a lot of connections. He's long-term service industry guy, and he's got a lot of connections with Houston specifically, Ohio specifically. So those are kind of like some of those spots that are on the radar, but nothing's really like defined. We'd like to be in Colorado because I have a lot of friends there. Same with LA, but
I'm sure your friends are just kind of whispering in your ear too, like, "Hey Matt, we're
Yeah,
ready for
well,
your passport."
my good friend in LA wants to really evolve it to deal a little bit more with like mushrooms, but we I don't know if we're going that route yet. I mean,
You
like
could be
I
the
said,
first
Yeah, I was gonna
passport.
say,
I'm
yeah.
open to anything that like really speaks to local culture though, so I'm not saying no. I mean, I actually I thought this was a perfect one for tonight because I'm kind of merging my Wisconsin and Minnesota together. I'm drinking out of the Wisconsin
love it.
cup with the Minnesota beer.
So how can listeners get their hands on your passport right now?
Yeah, just craftnotes.net. We have a shop. We ship pretty much every day during the holidays. They're a great gift. I mean, like you guys said, like you use them for date night. I know a lot of people that do that, and myself included. We have 2 little ones, so it kind of defers the cost of babysitting just like by a little bit. I mean, for us, it's been really fun because it kind of like we really like to try to restaurant and then go somewhere else for like an after hour, cocktail usually. But it's kind of, to me, I like it because it gets you to a different neighborhood and going to somewhere you normally don't go, and trying that place that I feel like so many people just default to like their normal,
Yes.
Yeah.
and so like I like this a lot because and in fact, like Craft Notes to me is still based on the same premise of Thrifty Hipster, which was go to somewhere new, try something else new, and if you don't like it, like you didn't spend a lot of money, it was like a fun way to try it out. Thrifty Hipster was more focused on happy hour. This is more focused on obviously the drink reward. But we're just kind of adding this level of curation under there, such that, I mean, we work really hard to curate it and find good venues and to tell a specific story. And so I would be shocked if anybody had a bad experience at any of the places. We pretty much we try to never put a bad place in there, and that's I think the other big difference between us and some of the other competitors, at least especially in Minnesota. Like we don't ever put a bad place, and we work with a lot of partners that just kind of don't do these types of programs. And yeah, so that's kind of been fun, unique.
And I know we have only one in Wisconsin, but for the Minnesota, I guess, do you have any like passports that are your most popular?
Oh yeah. We had this one version, and I think it was just kind of how we marketed it. But we had the our very first one was like nobody had heard of the concept, and it was just kind of like we were trying to explain what we were doing. So that was a little bit hard to sell, but then it kind of caught on, and that had all the best places at the time, like Bent Paddle and Dangerous Man and all your Summit and all the original venues, and then we did the women, because so everyone did that, and the big feedback we had got was like, oh, I love all these places, this is so great. And we're like, okay, cool, but the whole point is to like go somewhere you haven't been, right? So like then we did the woman-owned off the beaten path version, and that one that was kind of one of my favorites, but like that one didn't do as well because I think people were like, oh, it's all spread out and stuff. But to us, like we really like that. So then we followed that up with our most popular version, and that was, we ended up billing it as like the super local beer one. And so it was like literally you could have biked to all of the places in a day if you wanted to. but it was like, it had really, really good places on there. Like we kind of pitched it as like, your favorite beer spots and like favorite like local beer spots. And it was like, Prize Brewing, which is super hot, and Ladonia, and which was like a brand new cerveceria, but like they kind of have their own theme going on, and Udapils is in there, and Fair State and Bauhaus, and like kind of like all of these really popular like local Northeast Minneapolis breweries. And then we threw a couple on there just to like kind of get people a little bit out of town. But Badger Hill, one of my favorites as well, they were on there. So that was kind of the most popular one. And then we really tried to focus on themes after that. So then 2019, we came out with a sustainability version as well as a coffee version. And
wow.
the sustainability one was actually the most work, and probably had a little bit altruistic vision behind it, because we really had hoped that like people would like, really. I mean, we worked really hard. We called about 150 places. We worked through the University of Minnesota. We went to like
Wow.
these like grain expos and stuff where they're talking about experimental grains and all the next gen products for, how to really get certain flavors out of different different grains and different ways to different flavor combinations, and obviously very localized. And obviously the Midwest is where a lot of those grains are grown, but like focus on sustainability and just how alternatives to like your standard meat, wool, malt, barley kind of things like Kernza and that kind of stuff. But anyway, we found we found a big group of places to call. We called them all and kind of narrowed it down to places that were really like 150% in on like a certain theme. And so it's kind of like sustainability under four main themes. And so we tried to tell that story a little bit through those four places. And we actually had a lot lined up for 2020, because we come out with that like 2019 holiday. And so we had a lot of like, we had some bloggers lined up in 2020 to kind of like each focus on a theme. And then we obviously had a big Earth Day promotion because it was sustainability. But then that obviously didn't pan out for us so well, because everything shut down like right before we were about to launch that promotion. So then but then we ended up doing the version with the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild, and we did the version with the Cider Guild, and we did a little add-on thing last year, which was designed to kind of like supplement and kind of pay tribute to those places that like had to open during the pandemic, sadly, including one that I'm invested in. But named Arbiter, everyone should go check them out. They're in Minneapolis. Is a phenomenal spot. In fact, the only reason I did it was because like the guys are just phenomenally cool, and the brewer is like one of the best ever. But anyway, yeah. So then we did the one with Trivia Mafia. I think that recaps them.
So I mean, you talk about all these different versions and everything. I don't think you have actually said, but yours don't expire compared to like your competitors and everybody. Like
yeah, and that actually, so
expire
that's
at all.
been one of the struggles that we've had to go with. So we have everybody sign a contract, all our partners, and there's been a lot of staff turn in the last 2 years. So that's something we've been really focused on, is staff education. And but yeah, we don't have ours expire. Our opinion is these are all crafted around a story, and a good story doesn't expire. So while we try to like throw some other incentives in there that maybe do expire, like like the scavenger hunt in the Trivia Mafia version or whatever, the prizes anyway, the drink rewards don't.
Yeah.
And we don't really, because like, and that's why we also don't repeat venues in each book, or at least very rarely, because we will repeat them if they fit like a perfect theme and they've been used before. But if you really want to know about all of the places, that's where you get the mobile app. And so if you took all of the books, you could go to the mobile app and see all of the places, or you could, and even some that aren't in any of the books, and then you go to the mobile app for the rest. Or to the
And
book.
I've actually downloaded the app, and it's super cool. And I've seen it posted on your Instagram a lot. And you offer a lot of free drinks on the app. I'm surprised that a lot of people aren't jumping on this.
You
Like,
telling
you can
me?
go to all these places and get these free drinks.
Well, I mean, it's, and I think it's, I mean, it's a struggle with verbiage too. And actually, so the way we do it is, I mean, it is a subscription. But the way we do it is we kind of say, so, and this is something like nobody knows this. So that's what I'm telling you. So you tell people. But like, so like, I mean, like our big thing is like we really want to build a community around people that love this stuff. And so like, and in fact, like when we were going back and forth between one of my partners, he's like, we should charge, $3.99 a month for this, and make it so cheap that people just forget about it and never use it. And like just like always pay because it's only $4 or something,
Right.
And I was like, no, like I would rather have fewer people who are actually excited to do these things and like want to go out and do it. So that's why we end up billing it around the cost of 2 drinks. So the idea is that like, the way that I really want it to be out there is that you pay for 2 drinks. And the way that I kind of like interpret it or explain it is that you pay for 2 drinks up front. You can get up to 3 a day for the whole month. So if you're motivated, that's 100 drinks, right? But like, but then like, if you don't use it, those 2 drinks never go away. So you never like lose
Okay.
the value. You just lose
Okay.
the promotional value, or however you want to say it. And that's why like we haven't come up with the best way of saying it, but like it really is like a phenomenal deal. Like you can't go wrong. And like, I mean, right now that is kind of the struggle, is like getting enough people on, because we would really like to be hosting events and doing a lot more things that can really start bringing us into other markets. And to me, it really starts with getting a solid base, a really strong community in the markets that we're at. And so that's kind of the goals for 2023.
Well,
So-
and the app is so nice too. We were saying like sometimes we forget to bring the passport because it's always in my purse. So if
Yeah.
I'm not with Travis, he doesn't really
Right.
want to carry it around, or he doesn't have the space, or if my purse is too small. So it's kind of nice having that app. You can just pull it up on your phone and get your buy one, get one, or you can redeem your beers just through your phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the other cool thing we do is, even if you don't like, we really want to create a community of people. And so like we like, again, this was like a matter of contention between me and one of the other guys, but like we ended up going with what I had wanted, was because so we have a craft drink for all, and it's always kind of been our mission to try to bring craft and local culture to an all-inclusive audience. And so to me, whether you want to pay for it, whether you can pay for it, like that doesn't really matter to me. I just want you to be able to use it and discover these great places. And so obviously the app is free for discovery, and then we even do a new featured venue every month, and that's a free drink for everybody. That's the top result whenever you open, and then every month that's designed to kind of change. And that's on the idea that like if you just go to one place, you can always check out one new place a month, and you can always support one great local business and get one free drink. And yeah,
It's
so that's kind of the big thing. And now we actually tied that to, we were doing 2 separate programs, we kind of tied them together, and it's tied to our Craft Notes Plants Trees program. And so the way it works is the venue buys you a drink, we buy you a tree through a nonprofit partner, and then and everyone gets a free one. So technically, you not only get a free drink, you get a tree in your name.
Nice.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's really cool too. When I was exploring the app, it's kind of cool because it's not only the places in the passports. There's a lot of extra places, and you could read so much about them. You had like the craftsman interviews, or the 3 questions where you would ask 3 random questions to people, and you got to learn a little bit about these breweries, and it kind of created some interest and sparked some interest for us. And that's kind of how we chose some of the places.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's kind of the goal. I mean, the other thing too, people don't know, and we're debating if we're going to continue this practice, especially as we try to grow. But we also have, we try to hire local photographers. And so all of those photos are things that we've taken, or almost all the photos are things that we've taken, and are designed to be like professional grade, so that the app really looks pretty too. In fact, we've got a new version of it, the app coming out. It'll probably be in early 2023. But we got a new version that's going to be like a big design update, and then we're going to be adding a bunch of community features in 2023 as well. But right now we're just kind of focused on the holiday season, trying to sell passports. They're great gifts, so that's kind of the focus right now, right? But hopefully people will really like them and give them away to all their like work buddies and relatives. And
it is a really simple, easy gift. Like it's it's so nice. Like it's a usable gift.
Right. Well,
not just
you guys
like
know,
socks.
like you guys,
Right.
you guys like, right? Like you live together, like you kind of like, your money is her money, and
Yeah.
like
Thanks, babe.
her money is your money, and like, yeah, what are you gonna do, right? It's like, it's kind of like, to me, I mean, I've said this before, like, especially for date night stuff, it's like, dude, it's not even about like the gift or like the book itself. It's about more about the, like, we're gonna do things together, you know. And
Mhm.
like, to me, it's kind of like, you know, what are you gonna get? You know, what are you gonna get? Like your brother, you know, he's old, he's an
Yeah.
adult, he's gonna get his own stuff, right? Like you never know a good idea. But you know what? He likes beer. Like maybe him and his girlfriend, maybe he complained last time you guys hung out about how like they never do anything different, you know. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, here, man, like this will do more different things, you know. And
Yes.
that's kind of where like the additional books in Minnesota, the themes are kind of related to that. It's like, you know, oh, like maybe your friend at work is really into trivia. You know, maybe Travis is really into like sustainability issues and wants to learn a little bit more about that, and like kind of gives you an ability to give them something that says like, I know you know.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well,
And
and
that's kind of the
just
hope that people get it like that. But I don't know
just
if that's
hearing about all the success that you've had with these passports, how you're already on your 8th passport, what would you consider to be your most successful moment so far?
well, the 2019 holiday season was by far our best year. We had done the coffee book and we did the sustainability one, and our previous version was the local beer one that I was telling you about. Like that one had like just sold out, and so we
Wow.
were pretty excited, and that was the first one that had sold out in a year. So that was kind of the way we do it, is we do a single run, and then we just kind of sell them till they go. And again, because we put so much effort into that, that was also part of it, is we spend a lot of money on production, and you know, we employ local artists and photographers, and in some cases even copywriters. So you know, we just can't throw a bunch away, you know. And that's one of the things, like you know, sometimes it's, you know, I feel like that's, to me, like that's been the negative, and one of the business decisions that we're trying to make right now is that, you know, we know that we put a lot more effort into the quality of production than a lot of competitors. And so it's a question of like, do consumers and partners even value that?
Yeah. And
You
it's
know, and it's hard to get
definitely,
a straight answer from anybody, you know?
yeah. And there's been a lot of downfall in the last 2 years. And I feel like a lot of people we've talked to have talked about the comeback. So
Yeah.
it's great to see though that you're already on your 8th passport. And
Yeah.
hopefully you can bring those
Right.
8 back to Wisconsin.
Right.
Get us to some trivia nights.
I know. Who are the big trivia companies here? Is that a big deal here?
I think
There's I mean,
Yeah.
like Quizmaster, I think is like the
Yeah.
number one, I would say
Yeah.
around in this area.
And
Okay.
I think a couple breweries even do their own.
Just do their own. So
Yeah.
That's impressive. I'm not good at trivia.
Yeah, well, I know Trivia Mafia. I mean, they're really great guys. I know they do have a couple of nights in the area.
I'll have to look.
yeah.
Not that we'd be like winning prizes or anything. We would
No.
probably
It's
just go
always-
for the beer.
It's
and
always fun
listen.
just to see what you know, really.
Yeah.
Or how little you know.
Yeah.
That too.
But we did crush it at Disney trivia.
I mean,
We
not
did
me.
pretty good.
Oh yeah. Which movies are your favorite?
Oh, I think Toy Story is a classic.
Yeah,
Trying
You
to
know all the
think.
Toy Story answers.
Yeah.
most of them.
And just as a teacher, I feel like I need to be up to date on these Disney movies because they keep like quoting Moana and Frozen. Like, I got to know where these are coming from so I can have a good response back.
Right? And then they get older and they start quoting old school, or
Yeah.
what are kids into these days? I don't know.
Right. So I guess, where have you found your most success in like the social media or the store sales or like brand ambassadors, festivals? Like, where do you kind of sell a lot of your passports? Online or mostly?
Well, the truth is, it's about a third across the board. We try to do a lot of market events. Obviously, that's been pretty bad the last 2 years.
Right.
Online has shifted to obviously a main focus. I don't know. I always enjoyed the markets because I enjoyed talking to people and getting their feedback, and you know, I think that really helped us hone our pitch a lot as well. Like, you know, really understanding what people wanted in it and being able, and that's why too, like you can see the evolution. Sometimes we go back, you know, we go forward and then we go back because we realize like people like the previous version better. But you know, we always are trying to change little things in the books. to try to make it a little bit more interactive, a little bit more valuable for the consumers, and giving them what they want. And that really comes from the market event. So to me, if I had to choose one thing, it's like those are my favorite things to do. Obviously, I don't think those are like a scalable model for the future, but I mean, it's having said that, I also think that they're an important part of the business
For sure.
because I think that's what really like gets you out and meeting people and having a local presence. And I think if you're trying to build a community, I mean, I would really like to build a community of people, even if it was just like 1,000 people in Milwaukee, of like people who like genuinely like were excited to like learn more about local craft and going out more and supporting local businesses and bringing other people, coworkers and stuff into the fold. That would be, to me, that would be a huge win, right?
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You got 2 out of 1,000 here that would join.
Yeah, right. We're on our way. With 3.
Yeah.
That's 3. We got we got a ways to go. But no, I mean, we did a lot of cool stuff in Minnesota. Like we used to be partners with the Minnesota Saints, with the St. Paul Saints.
Oh, wow.
And we did some really cool stuff with them. Like we would do these big tailgating parties, bring breweries, and those were always super fun. I think I've got some photos on Instagram somewhere.
I'm gonna go stalk the page and check it out.
Yeah, it's probably a ways down, but I mean, but that's the thing and that's the big difference I think too between us, like, and somebody else. Like, I would say 99% of all the photos and stuff on there are like ones that we've taken. Like they're like real things that we've done. I think there's ways to improve as far as like personality and drawing out like, like me or Nick or Jack or some of the other people that are part of the business. But like, that's an evolution, and like but telling that side of the story has never been like my strong suit, and we don't really have anyone on our side that is their strong suit. But we obviously understand that's a weakness and something we're working on, right? But like because it is hard, because like I don't know, there's this e-commerce podcast I listen to sometimes, and they talk about how one of the struggles, they talk about how to really grow like a strong business with a strong brand, right, is kind of their focus. But they also talk a lot about how there's like this constant struggle between like he's like, okay, there's 2 types of businesses. One being like this drop shipping crappy business that like does awesome job on marketing but has a shitty product. And so you get like people like, will buy it once and never buy it again because it just like doesn't fulfill all the marketing promises that they provided. And then you got this other company that makes like this really good product and it's like the best in class, but like the guy has no clue how to market it. And then, obviously it's the winner when you can put those 2 things together, right? And I feel like, unfortunately, we're like, here, right? Like we like have like a really good product, but like we're still working on some of the marketing side of it. So, and some of that's resource based as well. Like we really put a lot of focus on the product and the design, and and after that's said and done, like we don't have a lot of money left for advertising. So we try to make sure that everybody gets paid, and obviously the product's a little more expensive to make, and so, but we believe that hopefully people see that quality and care.
Definitely.
But that's always the big question: is do they?
Do you have any like breweries or distilleries in, I guess, the Milwaukee area, kind of like learning more about the Passport, maybe reaching out to you at all to like be in it?
We haven't had too many places that have reached out to us. I mean, we've had to do a lot of the outreach. Okay. I will say that though, for our first edition, we got pretty much everyone that we reached out to. So that was kind of cool. And that list had kind of been built off of, connections that we had and like a real local presence and both in Milwaukee and Madison. So, we kind of went after the places that they had recommended, and that was kind of neat. So yeah, I mean, I guess to answer your question, not really, but feel free to name drop if you want.
For
you
sure.
see anybody that should be in there that isn't. Yeah, I mean, I will say that like it's been different, like living in Wisconsin. Like I'm a little bit out of my element, like as far as like what I who I know or whatever here. Mm-hmm. But I've really enjoyed kind of being here and like working through people that do know. And I think like, and you're gonna see a lot more of that coming out in 2023. That rather than Craft Notes trying to be the ones who dictate, especially as we go nationally. I think in Minnesota, like I would say that you should ask me because I know every single place. But in Minnesota or in Wisconsin, I know a lot less. You know, or I just haven't tried a lot of them, you know, and I haven't like been there and I haven't met the people obviously there, and I don't know it like I know Minnesota, right? But like, you know, our mission, especially as we grow, is to find those people in the markets and then partner with them to kind of tell that story. So and that kind of, you can see us kind of going that direction a little bit with the partnerships we're doing. Obviously, the partnerships are you know, groups in Minnesota. But the reason we're doing that is we're trying to like work out the system to how we can really like both benefit from the partnership, as well as like obviously we get the data and the resources and then set the expectations properly of working with them, so that like going forward when we go to new markets and we have less of a like personal connection, it's no longer such a rough you know, work through, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea right now, is we're just trying to really, we'd like to like, if we when we do launch, we'd like to do it strong, you know.
Well, and it's kind of a good thing, and it could be a tricky thing, that Milwaukee is constantly having new breweries open. I feel
Yeah.
like there's a new brewery opening each
All the
month,
time.
and it's great, like creating those new connections. But then the hard part is creating that new connection, kind of
Right.
meeting the people, learning about their brewery, and them kind of getting a start on their business.
Right. Well, yeah,
So
especially
lots of
because like
room.
once they get over that honeymoon period, it
Yes.
starts to get tough, you know.
Yes. So lots of room to grow with those passports here.
Right. Well, but and that's where like I think like I mean if you're, I mean the numbers and I mean like and obviously like the building of a community and the brand and the story, like that's all kind of part of like what we're trying to do for our competitive advantage. But like, yeah, I mean the truth is it's a solid, if you get the right customers and if you're doing a good job of attracting the right people,
Mhm.
it's the best marketing you'll ever do, you know, if you're a brewery, because it's something that's extremely cost effective. You know, you're getting good people in, and you know, I mean, how many like 10 years ago, you would have been at a bar and you would have had a girl from Heineken come up and buy you a beer under the idea that like, you know, she's paying full price for that and paying for the salary of that person. And the whole
Yeah.
idea is that like, hey Danielle, you're gonna love this Heineken, try it. And then you do,
Yeah.
and you go buy it, you know, and like this to them is like a gold mine. And like,
Yes.
you know, I mean, and so that's, and I mean, for us, like, that's one of the things that's like, we're trying to get people to understand that, like, you know, some of our competitors will put their stuff on Groupon. And it's like, you know, oh, and you wonder why the customers are crappy. It's because, like,
Mhm.
you know, you got a bunch of Groupon customers. And like, my whole take is if you want a Groupon customer, you should do your own Groupon, you know,
Yeah.
like, because at least you make something on that, you know,
Yes.
like we don't do those programs because we want people who, like, to me, you're not getting a craft notes because you want a deal. You're getting a craft notes because you want something to do and something curated that's, and learn a little bit and infuse a little bit of knowledge, whether it be the recommendations from the founders or a little bit of a backstory about the venue. Um, you know, and so that's kind of like, you know, where it all kind of comes together, I think, for us. At least that's what we're trying to do, right? And um, yeah,
But you're right though.
that's the story.
But you're right though. There are a lot of passports in our area, and
Yeah.
some of them are pretty surface level. Just here's the deal, here's the drink.
Pretty much.
But yours does really have a lot of meaning and a lot of history, and it just feels more personal.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole point. Like, and if you don't, I mean, I get, and don't get me wrong, like I get it. If you're a business, you want a customer, and like that's, you know, overall. But to me, it's like, you know, if you're a customer and you only want a deal, like, you know, there's other competitors out there that are probably a better value. You know, I mean, if you're gonna really go to them all this year, cool. You know, but like with ours, like, you know, like I always say, you only got to go to about 2 or 3 places to more than pay for the thing. And after that, they're all gratis. And like, I hope that you know, you feel like you actually got something that was a handmade, cool product that that local artists put a lot of time into, because that is what you're
Yes.
getting, you know? And I hope that the partners see that as well, you know, that like, do you want to get a bunch of good customers who really like care about what you're doing? Or do you want a bunch of people who are just going to get a deal?
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
true.
like, and that's why also we try to pick and choose who we work with as well.
So I guess what's next for Craft Notes? Like what's brewing in the future for you?
Well, our big focus right now is the mobile app. So the hope is that we have a strong holiday season and that we come out with, you know, a good number of people on the mobile app. And then we'd like to be doing some events. And I mean, this was all kind of plans like pre-pandemic, but we had been working on a pretty big unique event that would have been ours to own, and kind of, again, like a template for launching in new markets.
Wow.
So we're gonna hopefully, like, we'll know by probably like the end of January if that's gonna be kind of on the docket. That would be like a summer festival, but
cool.
so we'll know if that's gonna happen. And if our holiday sales miss, we'll probably just focus on doing small events and, you know, trying to really get people attracted to the app with the goal of getting kind of bigger by the summer, so that we can launch and have the revenue available to kind of get into a couple more markets. So, and hopefully figuring out our marketing pieces. We don't have much in the way of video or social media. I know you guys are good at that, but
We're trying.
us not so much. Us not so much. So we have. I mean, we actually kind of have the opposite problem. I have like all this incredibly good content, but I have like no voice to say it out there. You know, because to me, like, obviously, like, you can tell, like, I'm long-winded, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I got to get like that, like, punch.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for meeting with us tonight and talking to us about craft notes.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yes.
Are you recording video too? Is that the?
Yeah.
Oh, you are. Oh, yeah, here, I'll show you. These are the. Yeah, so this is the one we did. This is the sustainability one.
Nice.
It looks a lot better in person than the bad lighting, but but yeah. So that was kind of my favorite one. Here's the Trivia Mafia one that we just did this year.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
So, and then this is the decoder thing and the scavenger hunt.
Oh, nice.
So it's got a list of all the places. You got to find the circle. So this kind of gives you like a hint on what the, you know, because the number of letters in the answer.
Okay.
And,
Interesting.
That's cool.
That's gonna be cool. Here's the Wisconsin one, and then here's the one that we did with the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild. So
That's awesome.
that was pretty cool, because we actually raised a lot of money for the guild, and so that was kind of nice as well. So, you know, a lot of the money went straight back to them, especially during the pandemic when it was kind of a needed thing. So hopefully people understand that they contributed to the guild, because they contributed a lot.
Aw,
So,
that's awesome. And we've really enjoyed using your passport here in Wisconsin. So anyone listening, I would highly recommend it
Definitely.
for beers and for cocktails
and date night.
and date nights. Well, thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys, for having me.
See you later.
Cheers.
Yeah, bye.
We've reached the end of this episode, but there's plenty more to keep you busy. For online source materials and proven case studies delivered right to your inbox, sign up for our mailing list by visiting marketthebrew.com. We'll see you next time on Market the Brew.